Hello folks, Wolf Ninja here bringing you another nerdy video. And as you can see, I am back on camera with my Ludosport bandana. I fucking love this thing. This is my new one. I don't know where my first one went, so when I was ordering my Ludosport belt because of the tournament that was coming up, and when I was ordering some other things for some other members, I decided, you know what, I'm buying a new bandana because I fucking love it. And I just love how stretchy it is, and it's going up into my eyes now. I have to stretch this one out a bit more. I haven't worn it yet. This is the first time I'm wearing it. As you can see, it's a little crooked. It's also a bit awkward because I have to look sort of down at my camera. But yeah, I just saw Game of Thrones season 8 episode 3, and I decided to basically do a video because, well, one, it was a big episode. It's an episode I've been waiting for since for a very long time. Sorry, as I said, because of the angle of where I'm looking, the mask slips down a little bit. But yeah. Okay, first off, huge spoilers for episode 3. Putting it out there. You have been warned. I'll count down from 10 to give anyone a chance. So it's a fair warning. We're 1 minute 40 seconds into the video. After 10 more seconds, you just have no reason to be given out about spoilers. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, from this point on, spoilers. Okay. Oh wait, first I want to just put it out here. I loved the episode. It's one of my favorites of Game of Thrones, but there are some problems with it that I can't really forgive. And I even said it to my mother yesterday. So I watched it yesterday, and I must have been thinking about it for a while. There's moments where it's one of the better episodes, and then there are moments where it's one of the badder episodes. This is where it gets a little awkward. Okay, first off, the cinematography is brilliant, and funny enough, my friend who's an extra in Game of Thrones, I tried, since he told me he was an extra, I'm always thinking to myself, he's an extra in Game of Thrones, which means he's going to be grouped up with a whole bunch of people. I'm probably never going to see him, but I always look just in case, but I'm just like, I'm probably not going to notice him. But no, apparently I didn't recognize him, but then he posted a picture like, yeah guys, and I was like, oh my god, I seen him. But anyway, the Rocky moment. Let's get that out of the way. Hated it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, there is a bit of a cool factor to it, where we see them ride off into the night with their flaming swords, and I'm like, oh my god, we're gonna get a really epic, like, it's gonna be really epic. Then some stuff starts going wrong, and we just see the lights flickering out. And we know from the previous episode, episode ago, maybe 2 episodes ago, I'm trying to remember. Either way, we know for a fact that Cersei is not sending. Oh yeah, I think it was either season 8 episode 1 or season 7, the final episode. We know for a fact that Cersei is not sending troops north. We know that for a fact. So therefore, they still have to deal with her. They're still going to have to deal with her, and I don't know how, because she just bought a mercenary army. So I'm like, okay, you lost like 90-ish, like in the 90% of your cavalry forces in a second. We're talking like thousands of Dothraki. Like, remember that scene in season 7 when they were going to King's Landing? You see the Unsullied just standing there, and you can tell that there's still a. Despite the. I've had an issue with the Unsullied since. Since season. Sorry, after they took Meereen, I've had an issue with the Unsullied. Because they keep building them up as the Unsullied are these epic warriors, but then when they get to Meereen, these epic warriors. The Unsullied keep getting taken out left and right. They're being slaughtered by like the Sons of the Harpy, and I'm like, what the hell? So there's been moments through. Now again, I know apparently it was very early in the show that I think it was like season 4 or such that the show started really deviating, or actually no, I think it was a bit earlier than season 4 that they really started deviating from the books as opposed to being adaptations. So maybe it's the show's fault. I haven't read the books, but the Unsullied were such a letdown, and now we have like these Dothraki that are in the thousands, just vanish into the darkness. So fucking disappointed. Okay, the worst part is the previous scene was so epic with the Red Priestess grabbing hold of the sword and then lighting it, and then all the weapons are just lighting up on fire. I'm like, oh my god, this is so fucking epic, because we see that they didn't have enough obsidian to make weapons for the Dothraki. They were like, a lot of the Dothraki looked like they were still using their curved blades, which is great because they're horsemen, and I imagine that would be difficult to make out of obsidian. So, like, they have this epic moment of giving them weapons that will work against the Whites and the White Walkers, and yet they do nothing with it. They have this really big scene, and they did nothing. Alright, that was... and then it looks like they give a few teaser moments, but then there's a lot of plot armor moments, which I'm very disappointed, because this is not what Game of Thrones is supposed to be about. Game of Thrones is supposed to have no care for plot armor. But there's also a moment, like, some of the dragon scenes were good, but there wasn't enough. I liked how Dany and Jon did the smart thing. They got on the dragons and they attempted to go straight targeting the White Walkers and the Night King. I loved that. I loved how they're like, okay, let's just go. We can basically Star Wars this. We learned that you can. There's a Phantom Menace solution to the Army of the Dead. Take out the White Walker that raised them. It will destroy the rest. And then there's also like, and it was clear, like it was set up that if you destroy the Night King, you'll destroy everyone. Okay, I liked how they took that information and they actually went and aimed for it. Whereas opposed, now some people could say that was lazy writing, but in my opinion, it's, as a person who's a big fan of playing necromancers in a lot of different video games and tabletop RPGs, it makes sense. Especially with the White Walkers. The White Walkers are essentially liches, with the Night Walker being where the Night King, is the original lich, and he raised the others and he gave them some necromantic power, which was basically made them from being just undead servants of his. Actually, no, we know for a fact that he, from earlier seasons, that they're taking the babies of the guy that has Kraken's Keep. I think it's Kraken. They're taking his sons and he's imbuing them with his power. So they're essentially liches or necromant. Like, yeah, I don't want to say they're liches because they don't seem like they're undead, but at the same time, meh. Either way, It's very necromantic logic of if you take out the caster, then whatever he summoned or animated would also go inert. It is what happens in a lot of media. It happens, which I always find funny because anyway, that's a different rant for a different day. Anyway, so that made perfect sense to me for that to be like so. It's not lazy writing on my part because it's something that happens. If you think logically about magic and necromancy, it's very obvious. If you take out the necromancer, then the creatures that he animated, the corpse that he animated, will also go inert. They'll become corpses once again. So that was a very good plan, and I liked how the Night King basically counters with that storm that clearly the Nightwalkers are bringing with them. Some people theorize that the Nightwalkers are the reason why you have the long nights. Sorry, the long winters. Like, they're the ones that are bringing the really long winters, and the winters are getting longer and longer because they're coming from wherever they were. They're coming from the very top of the world. So that's one theory that people had. So I liked how they used that storm to defend themselves. And then you get this good moment where the undead dragon is fighting the other dragon, and John's like holding on, and then Danny comes in and saves John, and they tear Drogon's jaw so that he can't really get an accurate flame going on. And I like how the Night King still uses the dragon to tear down a hole in the wall and all that. Here was one of my here's a moment that I even said to my mother, I did not like this scene because it makes no fucking sense. Okay, at some point John falls off his dragon and whatever, and he sees the Night King. He's like, okay. He starts running out with his Valyrian sword. I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna be a fight between him. Then the Night King sees him, and he slowly starts raising his hands. John's like, no. And I'm like, oh my god, is he gonna make it in time? Is he gonna make it in time? And then basically he doesn't make it. And that's one of the moments where I saw my friend from Lunaspire. I'm like, oh my god, there he is. But no, the Night King raises all the people who died, which is an epic scene, and John is starting to be overwhelmed, and then Danny comes in on her dragon. I can't remember. I don't know the name of all the dragons. I can't identify them when I see them. But yeah, the dragon starts breathing fire. It doesn't hit John. I'm curious because John is a Targaryen. I'm dying to find out. Is he? We never really seen him be injured by fire. We've seen him getting hurt in the hands. I don't think that was because of fire. I think that was because of something else. So I am interested in finding that out. I thought, like, there are so many moments I was like, oh my god, John's going to be covered in fire and it's not going to hurt him. I thought we were going to get that scene. And it would have been badass. But we do get a scene where she saves him. Her dragon's still flying in the air. And for some reason, now this is where I really got annoyed. There's still hundreds of thousands of zombies or whites in the area, right? They don't immediately go run John because she created sort of a protective area around him. John runs off and saying, she lands on the ground to say goodbye, like to basically usher John ahead. I'm like, bitch, you're on a flying, fire-breathing dragon. Why are you landing? Stay up in the air and rain dragon fire on these rights. But she doesn't. What happens is she lands, she breathes fire, saves John, lands, and then her dragon gets swarmed by whites as what you expect. There's so many moments where they play into the trope, and you're so easily able to be like, this is going to happen. The worst one I haven't even gotten to. The worst one I haven't gotten to. But yeah, the dragon predictably gets overwhelmed by whites. It doesn't. We don't see the dragon die, but then he falls off, and the dragon is finding it difficult to fly. Here now we get to the scene which I was just dreading. As soon as they mentioned it at the very start of this episode, or the episode, no, it was in episode 2 of season 8. When they mentioned this, I knew it was a bad idea, and I'm like, are they really going to be this fucking stupid? Like, you're going to have Tyrion, Sansa, and Valaris, the spider. You're going to have these 3 characters be this fucking stupid. They're correct. They're sending all the non-combatants to be safely in the crypt. When they're being attacked by a force that utilizes the dead. Here's how. So here's a scene that should have popped up in this season before this battle. You should have had Jon, Tyrion, Sansa, or Valaris. I'm probably butchering his name. You should have had one of these characters be like, you know what we should do? We have the family crypts on the inside of the wall. Maybe it'd be a good idea that we take the remains of our dead and burn them. So that way they don't rise up against us, and we are going to have to essentially kill the corpse of a dear beloved family member. You would think that one of these characters would think of that. But no, instead they think, oh, they're crypt. There's only one way in and out. It'll be safe. Well, it's not safe. And predictably, we get a scene where they're huddled in the crypt, and the remains of the dearly departed begin animating and breaking out of their sarcophagi, coffins, or whatever you want to call it. Very predictable. That scene is by far the most, as I said, there's that scene by far, in terms of all media, I've had a huge issue with, because they build up, as I said, mention the characters, they build up those characters' intelligences so high, and they even build up their tactical knowledge, and I'm like, why would you do this? But okay, now here's another thing. We're now getting into the final bit of the show, and well, not the show, the episode. The Night King's death is so anticlimactic. I was expecting, because I have a Game of Thrones for my girlfriend. I designed a Game of Thrones styled D&D game. You know, I wanted her to give her much of an experience. I'm editing the world slightly. By adding some extra races and all, but for the most part I'm trying to keep to the lore, and I'm using the lore to help me assign races to the houses. You know, the Starks I'm keeping human, the Baratheons are dwarves, the Lannisters are high elves, and the people from Dorne are Tabaxi. You know, so I'm reading the lore. So I really thought Jon was going to be this. Because in the lore, I discovered about this guy who had a flaming sword, and he drove. It was during one of the first long nights, and that was tied into potentially what happened in. Now, this was in Essos when this happened, and I thought it was tied into what was happening in Westeros, where you had the first Night King, or the first moment when the White Walkers started attacking people. And when the wall got built, if I'm remembering correctly, that's that moment. And there was this huge prophecy that he will return to fight the darkness again. I honestly thought Jon was going to be that. I honestly thought that was going to be the situation. And we didn't get it. Jon was brought back just because he was. There's no ultra special reason, you know. We can sort of get a sense of why the guy from the Brotherhood Without Banners was brought back. I guess he was brought back to protect Arya, and essentially, what happened was, actually, the prophecy could be revolving around Arya, but She didn't have a flaming sword. But either way, the Night King shows up in the cloistered area, like they planned, because they were using Bran as bait, and the Night King makes this big show of it. Like he has all the whites surrounding him. Tyrion, I honestly thought, no, the Greyjoy guy. Can't remember. Theon. I thought Theon was going to have a really great moment, and he sort of does. He does. The way he dies is actually pretty beautiful. Defending Bran, and I loved it, you know. But I honestly thought there was going to be more to that scene, because like all the whites gather around Bran, they split apart, and the Night King walks in. He's looking down at Bran. He starts smiling, knowing that he won. Goes to reach for his sword, and for a split moment before that bit, we see a White Walker look back as if he noticed something, and then we see just out of the darkness as he's reaching, you just see Arya with her Valyrian dagger, like ah! Night King turns around, grabs her by the throat. She then does this cool trick where she drops it, catches, and then stabs. You know, I'm thinking to myself, wait, that's it? That's it? No epic clash between... Because Jon, at this point, is pinned down by the undead dragon. Now, see, that would have been a cool moment for him to be covered by the fire and for him to survive. That would have been a cool moment to show that he inherited the Targaryen immunity to fire. That would have been epic. It would have been beautiful. It would have been gorgeous. But we didn't get that. We get Arya coming out of the darkness and killing the Night King, which then results in killing everything. And Bran did fuck all. At the start of battle, he wargs into all the ravens, and that's it. It's just like, the thing is, I always suspected we were going to get scenes of him giving tactical information to the commanders. That's how I saw that whole scene going out. It does nothing. He literally does nothing. He just wargs into a bunch of ravens and nothing comes of it. It's just... No, don't get me wrong. The battle... It's one, no, as I said, this is one of my favourite battles. It's one, I just loved it. I actually absolutely loved it, like, for the most part of the film. But it's just that there is so many wasted and stupid moments. The Dothraki's just dying in the darkness. That was stupid. Dany landing on the ground with her dragon after she was in the air saving Jon with its dragon breath. There was no reason for her to land, and yet she lands. And then the fact that they honestly thought they would be saved in the crypt. Like, and then the Night King's anticlimactic death. Now, I did see, like, for example, Angry Joe's review, and I have to agree. I know I've had some issue with some of his reviews of late, but this is one that I have to agree with. The directing of this, the costume and directing of this episode and pacing of this episode is perfect. It's brilliant. But the writers, they're at the fucking up. The writers are at the fucking up. This is such a great moment. All the prophecies meant nothing. They meant nothing. And it's just so disappointing. Like, we got this... The Night King, like... The J.R.R. Martin, the guy who wrote the books, he specifically wrote it in the way that he has been to avoid the tropes, and yet since they deviate from the books, it's nothing but tropes, and I feel like they literally just allowed Arya to get the kill, not because it was what the show's been building up to or the books have been building up to, but no, just because for shock value, or because she's a fan favorite, and I'm not a fan of that. Like, don't get me wrong, Arya is my favorite character. She is by far my favorite character. Like, oh my god, I fucking love her. But no, no, like you can't just give someone, you can't just give a fan favorite quintessential moment for the sake of they're the fan favorite. So, in my opinion, as a whole, the show is absolutely amazing, and I like the directing, but in terms of this one episode alone, there's so many moments in Game of Thrones. Like, for me, Game of Thrones, like, if I had to rate each episode, they would all be scoring 9s and 8s, or the occasional 10. This one, I would actually give my lowest rating. It's either going to be a 6 or a 7. And that's because there's just there's too much predictability and wasted stuff happening in it. And I just don't know, like... So, this episode of Game of Thrones, it's going to get their lowest rating of it, in terms of... It's going to be strange, because it's going to have the lowest rating of all the... It'll probably have the lowest rating of all the episodes that I've watched Game of Thrones. And by the way, folks, I'm not just spitting like, I'm like, up until this point, I've been binge watching. My mother got Now TV, a subscription to Now TV Entertainment, and for the past 2 to 3 weeks, I've been binge watching Game of Thrones from season 1 up to now. So all the episodes are still very fresh in my mind, and I rewatch every time there's a new season. I rewatch all the past seasons up until the new season. So for the past how long has it been? 8 years, maybe. I think it's 9 years because they had that break. Anyway, for the past nearly decade, for the past decade, I've rewatched Game of Thrones so much, and so I can definitely say that this is going to be one of my favorite episodes, just because of the amount of sort of like cool because I love necromancy. So it's probably I'm probably going to be biased and say it's one of my favorite episodes for that reason. If I do, but it's also going to be the lowest episode I would rate, like with the lowest rating. It's just because it makes there's so much of it that just makes no sense, and yeah, it's the most visually appealing, but in terms of essence, it's surely lacking compared to the other episodes. But anyway, this is Willful Ninja. Sign out. May the Force be with you, and remember, roll for initiative.